Hi, Mark Donovan here, and today I am working on a Redbird Full Motion Simulator. What I've got configured here is a Piper Warrior configuration, just a general traditional 6-pack of avionics. I do have an autopilot, and I've got a Garmin 530 and a 430 here, and I've got the plane in autopilot flying toward a VOR, the Charlie Oscar November Concord VOR. I've got the CDIs both dialed in. I'm in VLOC mode on both instruments here with a direct track of 210, and I've got those both dialed in on the CDIs. You can see the little arrows here, they're pointing up, they're pointing to or towards the VOR, so we're flying a heading of about 210, based a little bit on, there's a little bit of a wind correction. And so we're just going to continue to fly the VOR. You'll notice that I'm getting a little bit off course here. The course is off to the left. I'm the ball in the center, so what I've got to do here is just turn the plane to the left. I'm going to just go to heading mode, and I'm already in heading mode, so I'm just going to turn a little bit to the left a couple degrees, and you should watch these needles come in. So again, the needles represent the course, and the ball represents ourselves, the plane. So I put a correction angle in, and it looks like I'm still not quite there, so I'm going to just give it a few more degrees to the left. We are on this DME equipment about 11.6 miles away from the VOR, as you can see here. So I make a small correction and then see if we come in. If not, we'll make a few more degrees. As we get closer to the VOR, the amount of movements or changes we want to make them a lot smaller, because we'll wind up flying by the radials otherwise. As you can see, the needles have come in a little bit. I can make a few more degrees correction. You see what happens if I make a dramatic change. The needle will fly right over the needle of the course. We're actually flying a 030 radial with a bearing of 210. And you can see we've set it up, but we've overshot. You can start to see that we're getting off course. The needle's off to the right. And so in order to resolve that problem, I've got to turn back to the right. And since my bearing was 210 that I'm supposed to be on it, and I've overshot, I'm going to probably have to go maybe about 230 to get back on course. So I dialed 230 in heading mode on my autopilot, and once we cross 210, we should start to see this come back in. I've dialed up about 230 here to try to catch up. Now, if you look carefully, you'll notice the needle will start to come in on this heading. And you can see here on the Garmin 530 that we are looking to intercept the course. As we get closer to the course needle, I will begin to turn my heading back to about a 210. We still have another couple degrees to get before we're back on the radial. We're only 6.7 miles away from the VOR at this point. So there we are, right pretty much centered up. So I'm going to bring the heading bug back to about 210 so that I don't overshoot. You can see I did overshoot a little bit as I was bringing down my power. I wasn't paying attention there for a minute. Again, we're about 5.5 miles. This is a slant angle. DME is distance measuring equipment, and it's measuring the slant angle. Now, I'm going to show you another thing here. So if I go back to the right again for a second, you notice we both have a 2 arrow indicator going to the VOR. We're flying to the VOR on the bearing 210. However, we're actually flying on the 030 radial. And you saw before, if the needle was off to the left, we would go to the left. If you inadvertently accidentally put a from indication and had the 030 put in here, you notice that the top CDI VOR, the course is off to the left, but look down here, its course is off to the right. Why? Because we have reverse sensing. We're supposed to be flying to the VOR, and yet we've dialed in a radial that's going from the VOR. So you can see we're getting further and further off course. I'm going to go back to about a 220, but to resolve this issue, I've got to get back to the 210 because I'm trying to fly to the VOR and I wanted to fly in the 210 bearing and on the 030 radial. So now notice they're both lined up. We're not on course quite yet, but I'll make a correction there and get us back on course a few degrees. We're only 3.1 miles away. It's going to come in pretty quick, so I don't want to go too far off track, or else I'll just fly by the course needle again. Here's the Concord VOR. You're going to notice in a second that as we get closer, we're going to enter the cone of confusion. And what's going to happen here, well, the needles will just kind of walk off. That will mean the VOR is not, the CDIs are unable to receive the signal because we're passing right over the VOR. So we're only 1.8 miles away. What we don't want to do is we don't want to change our heading as we're crossing over. As these needles kind of walk off to the left or right here in a second, we just continue to fly the heading that we wanted to fly, which is about 210. Making very small adjustments here. As we cross over, we don't want to make any adjustments. So you'll notice here that these needles are about to just start to walk off. We're only about 1.2 miles slant angles away. We're flying at 3,000 feet, so the closest is going to show about a half a mile because we're going to be a half a mile above the VOR. Now notice as we get closer and closer, we're 0.9 miles away, the needles are just kind of sweeping off to the right. We don't want to do anything here, we just want to continue to fly our heading as we pass over. So they've just walked off, we're in the cone of confusion for the VOR, the CDIs don't know what radial to pick up, so they just kind of go off the rails. So after we pass over the VOR, you're going to see these arrows switch to a from. We just did, see that? They're pointing away. Now we're flying from the VOR. The needles should start to come back in here a second, and we'll continue to fly outbound on the 210 radial from the VOR. And there they come, they're starting to come in. They're going to come back in and they'll line up right over the ball, which represents us. When we want to identify these, we hit the nav 1 and we listen for the Morse code. That's Charlie Oscar November for identifying the VOR, and you can also listen to it on nav 2. It's usually about a 15-second delay. And every 15 seconds it comes up with the Morse code. And that's all there is to using the VOR for navigation. Hopefully you found this video useful. If you did, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel.